Hello. It is so great to be here with you all on our last day of our 29 Days of Heart campaign. I am Selena Gore, the CEO of WomenHeart. We are a national patient-centered organization that provides support, education, and advocacy for women living with or at risk of heart disease. In fact, the only one in the country that does that. And I think many of you know this, but during February, we lift up both Heart Month and Black History Month. So it's a time when we run our annual 29 Days of Heart campaign to really bring out the voices of Black women with heart disease and to shine a spotlight on specifically the health inequities that exist for Black women, but also to provide some empowering and hopefully motivating information on how to take control of one's heart health. As today is the last day of the month, this also means it's the end of our campaign. But it is a chance one last time to speak to one of our WomenHeart champions. These women who are women who've experienced heart disease and then have decided that they want to give back and help other women who are going through the same journey. So they get trained to be volunteers or champions with WomenHeart to provide that peer support by running support groups, but also offering community education about heart disease in women. And today we have the incredible pleasure of speaking with Pamela Thomas. Pamela, as we just discussed, is from Ridgefield, Connecticut, the beautiful Ridgefield, Connecticut, and is part of the class of 2010, which is amazing that you've been a WomenHeart champion now for 13 years. So let's start from the start. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into your heart story?
Thank you so much, Selena. First and foremost, thanks for having me on this last day of not only Black History Month, but Heart Month as well. I am a true advocate. I like to describe myself as such. I'm a heart survivor, I'm a thriver, and I'm a warrior, first and foremost. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister as well. But that's how I describe myself. You know, I'm definitely a woman of courage because of everything else that I've gone through when it comes to the heart.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, why don't you tell us about your heart story?
So my heart story starts from the very, very beginning. I was born with an enlarged heart and diagnosed at age 5. And interestingly enough, I was a very active child, even though I was diagnosed with a heart that they said that would tire out very quickly
Wow.
if I were to do any type of physical activity, right? But I lived a very normal childhood. You know, I played sports, I played softball, I played volleyball. I ran track mostly when I was very young with my older sister. And I mentioned my older sister because I was on the track team with her, not with the little kids, but
Yeah.
I was running the 440 and the 220 with my older sister with an enlarged heart. So it was something that was quite normal for me. But the older I got, the worse it became.
Mm.
So at age 38, and I hate to fly from age 5 to age 38, but that's when I experienced my first diagnosis of heart failure.
Mm.
And it was due to 1.7 liters of fluid on the pericardiole of my heart.
Wow.
And it started with inflammation in the thighs, inflammation in the feet, in the ankles, you know, that normal symptom that a lot of heart failure patients do have is
Yeah.
inflammation. So it started there. And that's when I had to have my very first major heart surgery, which was robotic assisted heart surgery. Not only on my left ventricle to repair blood clots, but to repair 2 regurgitating valves, my
Wow.
tricuspid and my mitral. And I had a hole in my heart as well. And the fluid came back 2 weeks later. You know, so I've had a total of 5 major heart surgeries and several procedures to repair my heart, the last one being 2020. So 2 years ago, I had a pericardectomy at Yale University, an hour away where I live now. And it was probably one of the toughest experiences when it comes to heart surgeries that I've been through. But again, it saved my heart.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
saved me there. Yeah.
Incredible. Now, I mean, it sounds like you probably had parents who were very encouraging. I mean, to sort of navigate the difference between being fearful for your child because of this diagnosis, but also helping you to fulfill your dreams and to be athletic, which I think is a dream for most parents for their kids. So can you talk a little bit about that balance between wanting to keep you safe and healthy, but also obviously wanting to encourage you to strive?
Well, it was, talk about encouraging. I consider my parents my hero when it comes to a lot of things that I do, but particularly when it comes to my heart. I can tell you, as a young child, they didn't coddle me when it came to my heart. I was
Mhm.
automatically put into sports. That was something that was natural, right?
Mhm.
Plus, the doctors back then said that, oh, she'll be okay. She'll grow into her heart. She'll grow into her heart,
Oh,
right? Opposed to, let's do some additional tests. But, they made my parents feel like it was okay and it was a little bit normal. And
okay.
so I was treated like a normal child. I wasn't coddled at all. And so I
Wow.
was able to play sports and play outside with my brother and sister. You know what I mean? And so, but
Yeah.
it was when I became an adult and going through that first heart surgery at age 38, when the protection came.
Yeah.
Thank God for a protective family and parents for that matter. I have a great tribe, I like to call them, that's around me and that support me. And so my parents nursed me back to health each and every time
Yeah.
I went through a heart surgery. They moved into where I was living
Wow.
to make me strong again.
Talk about heroes. I mean, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And you talked about 5 major surgeries. Did you go through cardiac rehab after each and every surgery? Talk a little bit about that, because I'm sure as much as you wanted to recover, you probably also wanted to get back to your normal of being an active person.
Correct. You're right. So I can speak to the first two surgeries. I did go through cardiac rehab, and the first two surgeries were robotic assisted heart surgeries, right?
Okay.
Um, so naturally, cardiac rehab would come after that. I had my first robotic assisted heart surgery and the second at St. Joseph Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, where I lived at the time. And the cardiac rehab was excellent. And I mention that because the individual that was running the cardiac rehab at the time is the one who told me about Women Heart. And she said, you would be a fantastic
Oh,
champion. And so she's the reason why I was introduced to WomenHeart going through cardiac rehab. But I tell people that cardiac rehab will save your life. It will.
yeah.
I don't understand how individuals who have heart surgeries, if they don't have the ability, whether it's insurance related or whether it's just a will or a way
Yeah.
to go through cardiac rehab, I don't see how they make it. I really don't. It's tough to get yourself back in the position where you're up and mobile again after
Yeah.
heart surgery without cardiac rehab. And I can testify to that because in 2020, my surgery was March 19th, 2020. Now, Selena, if you remember that date, that is when the world shut down due to COVID,
Yes. Oh my goodness.
that exact date. So I was, being prayed over through cell phone
Wow.
with my family. The nurses had my cell phone and was talking to my mother at the time because my mother and my father, they were not allowed in the hospital during that time.
Yeah.
And naturally, after that particular surgery, which I mentioned was the hardest surgery I went through, I was not able to go to cardiac rehab
Wow.
because of COVID. And so, count 2 years later, I'm still trying to build muscle and still trying to build my stamina. But I do exercise on a daily basis. I do what I have to do to feel good every day and feel strong.
Let's talk for a second about the inequities around cardiac rehab, right? We know, you mentioned how it is a lifesaver for those who've gone through a heart surgery. But we know that women, and in particular Black women, are less likely to be prescribed cardiac rehab. Can you just share your thoughts about that sort of sad statistic that, on the one hand you say it's a lifesaver, on the other hand we know that it's not uniformly offered to everybody?
I cannot speak to why it's not offered to each and every individual that has heart surgery. But it should be.
Should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate
Yeah.
that the doctors are not providing the information that they should, and hospitals for that matter, providing the information that they should to each and every individual, regardless of their race, of their age, of who they are as individuals. I think it is unfortunate, but I can tell you that I was fortunate enough to have the conversations. And I can say this about having the conversations. As Black women, um, not being provided that information to move forward and go to cardiac rehab, I think we have to start being our own advocates as well. And so doing the research, understanding that it is available to us,
Yeah.
and speaking up and demanding that they that they that they receive the information to enroll in cardiac rehab after their surgeries.
Yeah, I think that is some really sound advice, and I've also heard the advice of if you are denied or you are told that it's not necessary, to ask that it is marked in your chart that you asked for it and were denied it, and
That's a great best practice.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a fabulous best practice, and I'll remember that when I'm talking to my heart sisters.
yeah.
Well.
It's powerful to sort of turn that around, turn that accountability around.
For sure.
Pamela, talk a little bit about mental fortitude. I mean, we've been talking about physical health a lot, and we've been talking about how you have been a physically active person all your life. But talk to me a little bit about, what it's taken for you mentally to get through the many challenges that you've faced in your heart disease journey.
When I think about the mental fortitude, it takes me back to me being an independent single woman who takes care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think about the fact that when my heart went into heart failure, I had a full-time job. I have a full-time job now, and I've had a full-time job throughout each and every surgery with the same company. So I'm very fortunate that they've become a part of my family as well. But in the beginning, they did not know that I had heart disease, and they did not know about the first procedure, because it wasn't a first surgery. It was a first procedure to then lead up to the surgeries, right?
Right.
I was afraid to have that conversation with them because mentally I thought they're going to think that I'm weak.
Yeah.
I take care of myself every day. This job is not my livelihood, right? But it takes care of me every single day. It's not who I am, but it does take care of me every day. And I have insurance through this job as well. And so I can tell you, when you have all of that on your heart and on your mind, depression is real.
Yeah.
Right. And so through each and every surgery and through each and every conversation I had to have with the manager, when I had to let them know that I would be out for a particular amount of time for heart surgery, it was tough for me.
Yeah.
It was tough for me because I'm seen as the tough one at work, right? And so having those very intimate, very emotional, as far as I'm concerned, conversations with someone that you work with. And I can tell you now that the people I work with and the people that know me best are like family to me. And I can have these conversations to me. And I mean, with them. I can also tell you that my last heart surgery, not only did they think before they performed the pericardectomy? Not only did they think I needed a heart transplant, but they also thought I needed a liver transplant. And I had individuals at work calling me saying, I'll provide you my liver.
Amazing,
You
Pamela.
know,
Amazing.
so it's incredible to know that you work with people after you tell your story to individuals, after you get that off of your heart and soul. The individuals that's in your circle, it will amaze you and make you mentally stronger than you've ever been. I think I would give the advice to tell your story.
Yeah.
If you have a story to tell, tell your story. If you keep that story internal, it leads to depression.
Yeah. That is really powerful. I wrote a post the other day about, you know, leaders are just as human as you are, and being vulnerable and being open and transparent is really a key to sort of happiness overall and thriving. You know, this we talked about thrivership earlier, and that's just so fundamental. You know, to not, if you're not feeling strong that day, then, you know, let go of of what you think the perception is out there, right? Like, to your
Sure.
point, tell your story in a way that resonates with others that might be able to relate.
Right. Because they know my story, if I'm walking into the office, and you know how we carry the large bags, right?
Yeah,
If I'm walking into my office and I have my tablets and I have my phone and I have my bag just full of work material, actually people will get up and say, Pamela, can I carry that to your desk?
yeah, that's amazing.
Because they know my story. You
Absolutely.
know, if I look tired that day, they will ask me how I'm doing because they know my story.
Yeah,
So I'm not hiding anything. And so I can tell you, you know, when it comes to depression and it's not something I deal with because everyone knows my story. I tell
yeah,
my story as much as possible. I think that God has kept me on this earth through all of the surgeries that I've been through all the pain, the challenges. It's been tough, but I can tell you that I'm here today to tell my story and to uplift others.
amazing. And you're also here to share your story with your heart sister. So tell me a little
Sure.
bit about why you volunteer with Women Heart. What's the motivation for you to be part of this sisterhood?
Well, you know, the motivation is to uplift others. You know, there's sister to sister, right? There's peer to peer phone calls,
Yeah.
right? And so I can tell you the conversations I've had with heart sisters that or a heart sister that just didn't want to talk to anyone else. And so they had my phone number. And so they would call me and we would talk to why they were sad that day or the symptoms that they were feeling that particular day or what I thought the next step that they needed to take and talk to their doctor about, right?
Yeah.
Because I've lived it, I'm able to speak to them about it and it carries weight. And so that's why I'm a part of Women Heart. That's why I love Women Heart so much. It is a sisterhood. And so I encourage anyone that who has somebody in their family who has heart disease or is prone to have heart disease, definitely, you know, volunteer for Women Heart. You know, you should be supporting a cause. I mean, why are we here, right? I'm reading this book called, I don't want to advertise anything. So, but I'm reading this book that talks about, I won't say what it's called, but it talks about why we're here
Yeah.
on this earth, and it's to give back to others.
Yeah.
It's to
Yeah.
give back to others, and I give back to Women Heart.
You know, Pamela, normally I ask at the end of our time together, what's your one piece of advice? And you already shared that. You said, tell your story. I heard that loud and clear. So I want to repeat that for our audience. So instead, I want to ask you, share, if you can, one sort of gift that you think having had heart disease has given you in your life.
Oh, a gift. Oh my God, that's a really good question. You know, so I had a saying copywritten years ago, and it's something that I right on my social media all the time, if not every day. And I can tell you for the last 28 days, I've written this saying every single day because I want my friends and family that's connected to me on social media to fall in love with their hearts.
Mm.
So God kept me on this earth. I did say that. I think that's a gift in itself. But to tell others to fall in love with their heart is something that I say all the time. Because if you think about it, you know, a lot of times we say, I love you to, husbands, and I
Yeah.
love you to boyfriends or girlfriends or
Yeah.
even our pets, right,
Yeah.
Celine?
Yeah.
But we never say, I love you, my heart.
Yeah.
Fall in love with your heart. You fall in love with so many things, but we don't fall in love with our hearts. And I can tell you where that came from as well. I remember my mother was in the room one of the times that I received an echocardiogram, and looking at the heart bounce around, you know, on the imager, right? It looks like a child inside of a womb. If you think about it, I know you've seen many echocardiograms. If you haven't, I would say Google one and look at it. It looks like a child inside of a body. This is how I see my heart. So I've fallen in love with my heart. I'm going to treat my heart really well. And I ask others every single day to do something, whether it's moving more, whether it's not smoking, whether it's knowing your numbers, whether it's knowing your genetic makeup, to fall in love with your heart.
I don't know if we could have ended Black History Month, Heart Month, our 29 Days of Heart campaign any better than speaking to Pamela Thomas today. I have been inspired. I have learned. If any of you want to be inspired and learn, go to our website at womenheart.org/29 Days of Heart. You can watch Pamela again because that's where this video will end up. And you can watch all of our interviews with our other Women Heart champions, as well as our partners. We've had a great Heart Month as Women Heart. We've talked to some amazing women, and we look forward to seeing you all again when we do this next year. So thank you, Pamela, and thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.